Welcome to Michael's Record Collection. I'm very excited to have back with me on the show Stuart Nicholson and Dean Baker from Galahad. Gentlemen, how are you?
Oh, blimey. I just slid down a bit.
I'm very
There
good,
he is.
thank you.
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good, good. We have a new album to talk about, The Long Goodbye, the 12th studio album from Galahad. Correct me if I'm wrong, is the release date October 23rd?
It's actually 20th.
20th. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how the 23rd got in there, but it did.
Okay.
But
Well, it's this show will come out just after the new release, and I have to say I've been enjoying this one quite as much as the last great adventure. In fact, maybe a little more. I don't know. You always wonder how's a band going to top a great album, and yet I think somehow you guys have done that. But I wanted to start off by just reminding folks I won't be asking you your first favorite records because you've been on the show before, and I know Stu's first purchase was Queen's Sheer Heart Attack, and along with the his first single was Space Oddity by David Bowie. And Dean said his first favorite album was Abbey Road because he scratched his uncle's copy and ended up having that scratched copy as his first record. So we've taken care of the preliminaries. The new Galahad record, The Long Goodbye. Same personnel as last time. We got Stu Nicholson on vocals. We got Dean Baker on keyboards, Spencer Luckman drums, Lee Abraham guitars, and Mark Spencer on bass. Same lineup. And my understanding is that a lot of these, I know you guys collect bits in a share folder. A lot of this stuff was written in the same time period as The Last Great Adventurer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it could have been a double album.
It could have, and I think that you had a good case for like a dark side and a light side. I kind of feel like The Long Goodbye's subject matter is a little darker than the Last Great Adventurer. Is that fair to say?
yeah, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it wasn't planned that way. It just sort of turned out like that. Yeah, it's quite a personal album, other than Righteous and the Damned, which is more of a kind of pseudo generalized political kind of thing. The rest of it is actually quite yeah, looking at the lyrics now, I think, oh yeah, that's quite dark. It
I
just
must say I haven't spoken to Stuart about this, and I might be wrong, Stuart, but I was listening through it about a week or so ago and looking at the lyrics, and it seems like every song is about personality.
it's a
It's
bit like
about
that.
people's
It's
personalities.
yeah, a lot of it is about it's about relationships and friendships and how sometimes they break down and sometimes you don't want it to break down, but unfortunately it does. And also it's all about kind of I know it's a very current buzzy type thing, but the whole mental health thing as well, and a lot of those thoughts. And I think a lot of those thoughts, it's kind of no coincidence really, because obviously that we've come out of COVID and what have you, and I think and some of that stuff was whirring around during that time, and of course that affected a lot of people in a lot of ways, a lot of negative ways, unfortunately, But and it's ironic that the oldest song on that album, I think, is probably "Righteous and the Damned," which ironically doesn't fall into that category.
Mm.
So you
So
have
yeah,
you mentioned that this personalities and how the pandemic sort of affected people. There are some people now that are not the same people I mean, I think a lot of ways nobody's the same person they were before, but some people are almost unrecognizably different than the way they were before the pandemic. Don't you agree?
I think there's a strong case for that. I don't know whether online has become that way. It seems to be. I don't know. I think personally there seems to be a lot more nastiness with people now in the world and more opinionated. And I don't know whether or not that's led from frustrations through lockdown. I'm not too sure. But to me, I seem to see more anger online than I ever used to.
Yeah, I think people are less. I don't know. They're less willing just to accept things, I suppose, or people tend to impose their opinions a lot more, whether they know what they're talking about or not. Especially online, you've got all these sort of self proclaimed experts, and there's a lot of them, and it's very difficult to wheedle your way through the real stuff and the obviously the bizarre odd stuff.
Mm.
And as Dean says, I think a lot of that has happened has got worse since the whole COVID thing. Whereas the irony was, I think in the beginning of COVID, I thought in a way people were kind of rallying together, but that all seems to have dissipated. It's gone the other way almost. It's almost like this kind of, almost like a kind of, like a very sort of narcissistic kind of thing. It's all about me kind of thing, and it's, I do notice that. Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know of any people personally, friends and family that, I mean, we've all been affected by it, but I don't know if they had a change in their personalities, but I've certainly seen things online. There's no doubt about it.
And it may be magnified in this country because we also went through a very heated political period in our country's history at the same time.
So, of course, yeah.
You still are, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. It's not over yet.
That's true. Unfortunately, it's almost like a rubber band snapping back the other way too far. But it's been a little crazy. But you mentioned this is a personal album, and you mentioned some stuff you're going through with your dad, and of course, The Long Goodbye is a song about dementia, and I've wondered, how difficult was that for you to write, or was it easy to write?
It wasn't too difficult to write, to be honest, and obviously, my dad's he's basically going through that, which is quite a bizarre thing because it's not about my dad. But it's almost like life imitating art. It's quite strange, especially as the album's about to come out and his dementia has just got worse and worse. And and today we took him out and took him home. He had to go to his doctor for a flu jab, came back, and he didn't realize he was back at home. He thought he was somewhere else. He was sort of looking around to see where he was. I said, Dad, you're actually at home. Oh, but no, my aunt and my nan, they had Alzheimer's quite a few years ago, and that sparked the original idea for the song, which kind of sat around for a while. And then I watched a film called Still Alice, starring Julianne Moore. I think she won an Oscar for it, actually. And she was basically playing the part of a sort of university professor, very bright, and she started forgetting things. And I don't know if you've seen the film, but basically it was quite poignant, and realised eventually she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And it was quite harrowing, really. She changed from this sort of very bright person, had a lot of very close friends and family, to basically not knowing who she was or what was going on. And that kind of I say inspired is a strange word. It seems wrong to use the word inspire when the song's about not a particularly positive subject, but it certainly had quite an effect, and that helped me to finish the whole idea and finish the song. Yeah, and with his music as well.
Yeah, interesting. A little story about that is myself and Stuart obviously worked on that song together, like we do with many other Galahad compositions. But we were trying to get that that confusion in the music. We were trying to make it just a little bit unhinged. And when we all got together, the five of us, Mark Spencer said, I don't know about that song. It's really confusing and it's all a little bit unhinged at the beginning. It's like, we've done it. That was exactly what we were trying to do.
That's what you were going for. Hey.
And funny enough, I think it's probably Mark's favourite song as well now. Now he gets where the angle we were coming from. So that was quite interesting. So I felt really pleased about that, because I think we actually achieved what we set out to do.
Yeah, completely unsolicited. That's a great form of validation for you.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and of course, and the end section, obviously that gives me goosebumps when it goes into that quiet acoustic with Lee coming and Dean's effects, and we sort of, and that's the one bit of the album that we kind of finished together in a rehearsal studio. So it's actually that is a band piece which finishes the album, So I think it's quite a good way to finish the album as well, because obviously we've done that. We've got a few ideas to work on, but it'd be nice now to get Lee and Mark involved hopefully in the writing process going forward, because I think that might change things a little bit. It might change the sound slightly, because I don't know if you think, Dean, me and Dean, we kind of have a sort of Galahad sound now in a way. And It'll be interesting to see how it goes when we have more major songwriting input from everybody else.
I think the last 3 to 5 albums have been that way, haven't they? And so it would be nice to try different, well, not say a different direction, but just get input from other people. Maybe there are things which we wouldn't think about doing ourselves, which the other members would, and take us on a different journey.
Yeah, I think you have a sound that's this album is identifiably Galahad right from the get go, right from behind the veil of a smile, and it's not a sea change from albums that came out even 10, 15 years ago. So I think that anybody that's been following you and following the direction of your music is not going to, it's not a sudden left turn by any means, but I do feel like there's a little more marriage of electronic sequences with the guitars in this one. Lots of electronic sounds, especially the beginnings of tracks 2 and 3. Everything's changed in Shadow in the Corner, very electronic at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that was sometimes when it's just myself and Stu working and it is keyboards, then of course it's inevitable it's going to happen that way. The great thing we've had, I think, with the technology in this last few years is how good now the guitars, drums and bass can be on a computer system. So we can demo quite thoroughly before we get to before we actually get to audition the tracks with the band. So consequently, I suppose a lot of the guitar lines were written with the keyboards at the same time, which is great for us. And then, of course, all great work by Lee to actually then turn it into what is a real guitar. There are certain bits when he's just like, Dean, a guitarist wouldn't do that. And I'm like, okay, do what you need to do to make it like a guitar, make it real,
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit of trial and error, but generally, yeah, we did right with all that. The demos were fairly polished, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were pretty much the finished article, weren't they? Most of them. In fact, it was only really long goodbye that we added anything to, I think, thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, of course, The Righteous and the Damned is basically, it's a guitar piece. But myself and Stuart wrote that with keyboard guitar sounds. And we built on the track from that. And that's like it seems quite weird, really, but it's a
bit of a strange one, like Dean says, because I had this idea to do a bit of a manic kind of track with lots of strange sort of vocals, going up and down, and again, quite unusual for us. And I had this kind of System of a Down kind of sound in my head, and the irony was we explained it to Lee, and Lee had actually never heard any System of a Down, which I thought was quite funny. So of course, so there we are, me and the keyboard player basically writing this sort of quite heavy, almost new metally, heavy metal idea song without the guitarist.
But then of course Lee
came in.
Yeah, Lee put this together brilliantly for us. He, it wasn't note for note. He, adapted what he needed to adapt and played some of it exactly as we'd written it. But the feel was always there. And all credit to Lee for what he did there, because it must have been a bit of a challenge to go, bloody keyboard player. I've now got to try and match this or do something with it. So yeah, it worked out really well.
Tell me a little bit about the lyrical themes from these first few songs. Stu, what was on your mind? I know that for Last Great Adventure, you had you latched onto certain ideas, and you talked about personalities and relationships. What is it behind the veil of a smile? What was in your mind for that one?
Don't say the wrong thing. No, I mean, it's kind of about it's about friendships. It's about when you've been friends with someone for a long time and then things basically go wrong. And then you realize that this person, and that's why it's sort of called Behind the Veil of a Smile, really, is that the smile is, it's not really a smile. It's a front, if you see what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. A lot of people put on fronts, and it sometimes takes a long time to realize that is the case. So it's kind of about that, to be honest. And something like Everything's Changed, that's sort of, again, in a way, that is about, I mean, I never really connected the songs, but actually they are sort of connected in a way. again, that's about things happening and people seeing things that they shouldn't, and suddenly someone gets the wrong idea about something, and you get pilloried, and then they realise actually they got the wrong end of the stick, and it's all that kind of stuff, really.
I will say that
So sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say the photo of that accompanies the lyrics to Beyond the Veil of a Smile or Behind the Veil of a Smile is extremely sinister looking.
I need to have a look at that.
It is, but it does work. It kind of does convey that in a way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, and it kind of makes you think, well, what's that person thinking? And that's exactly what the song is about. It's like this is about somebody that you've got. Yes,
that's it.
Like on the surface, it's just this girl smiling, but when you really look at it, it's like
it isn't a real smile.
It isn't a happy smile.
Yeah. They're not smiling with their eyes.
No. So that's when Paul sent me through the artwork, the original artwork. This is Paul Tippett, who does all our graphic design. And I did actually chuckle to myself. So I thought, yeah, Paul, you get it. You really get it. So, you know, and that's what we use me. He's a bit like Carl. Carl Groom, our engineer and producer. He just seems to get what we're trying to convey. And he's like a sixth member of the band. And Paul's very good in the graphic area. He always seems to manage to interpret what we're trying to say in sort of visual form.
Yeah. Dean, what was going through your mind for Shadow in the Corner? What were you listening to at the time? It's definitely some electronic sequences there. Was there anything that was kind of sticking out to you
hello.
at the time?
Sorry, that was my cat. Actually, it was I had one sole aim, and that was to just get the grooviest groove I could get. That was my aim. That was literally, it was that. And I think when Stuart started doing the intro with the and all the bits at the beginning, it's just like, yeah, everything was, I wouldn't say it was quite Michael Jackson-esque, but there was certainly that sort of groove we were after, and it just evolved from there. I wouldn't say I was necessarily inspired by anything. I was more driven to find a groove.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
that was the key to it.
And the vocal, that I wasn't sure about the vocal at first, because obviously in the old days when we were more of a so-called neo-prog band, more traditional in a way, long before Dean was obviously in the band as well. And we did get comparisons to Marillion and Fish and all that, and I remember that very well. And I understand it because some of the songs are a bit that way. And of course, on Shadow in the Corner, the first vocal, I'm going Shadow, and I'm thinking, oh God, I keep thinking of Fish. People are going to say, oh, you sound just like Fish again. But amazingly, no one really has, so that's quite good,
It's funny you say that. I can show you my notes, but it says literally, it sounds like something Fish would have done on the first two Marillion albums.
Brilliant.
So it hasn't completely escaped, is it? Oh.
And as a fan of those albums, I'm here for it, man. I like it.
I am a fan as well. I mean, the trouble is, I can't help my voice, and if I want to do something effective like that, and it sounds a bit like Fish or Peter Gabriel, then so be it. Nothing I can do about it. Yeah. But
there are worse people to emulate.
Like Jackson.
All right. Well, the Righteous and the Damned, you revisit the lyrics from Empires Never Last over this sort of ambient soundtrack, and then it breaks into something that sounds like Jewish folk music, maybe.
Yeah.
What was the genesis of that? That is very different for you guys.
We were in Krakow. We were playing in Krakow a few years ago. This is before lockdown and COVID, so quite a few years ago. And we were actually wandering around the Jewish quarter, and there were various musicians and violins playing all this sort of Jewishy kind of music. I mean, I knew about that kind of stuff anyway, and it was like a cross between that and sort of Fiddler on the Roof. And didn't I say to you, Dean, I've got this melody? We were literally walking along.
You said it,
and I'm sitting, yeah,
in Krakow.
I don't want to forget this. I can't forget it, and I'm singing it over and over and over again. And luckily, when I got home, I remembered it and managed to record it onto Pro Tools, so I had it, and then we just worked on it from there. But again, it was something a bit different, and I think that's the thing about us. I think we do take different influences, and not overtly. I mean, we don't go all out to make everything sound completely different. Whatever, it just sort of naturally happens really. And I think both Dean and me, we're very open to a lot of different types of music and ideas. Whereas I'd say that that's the difference between Galahad now and Galahad 30 odd years ago. You know, it's almost like you had some barriers up there. You know, we couldn't try certain things, but now we literally we'll try anything. You know, we don't mind.
Oh, it was great for me as well, because basically all I've got is a single monophonic melody line that Stuart's written. And then it's like, let's work out the harmonics for this. Let's work out all the harmonies, all the bits. It was, it's great fun. I love working like that. We did do that on, we did Open Water. We did that on as well.
Ooh.
I think it was Open Water, which was done in the same way, where Stu actually just sung a lyric, and then I'm left with figuring out how to make the music from that, which I love. Absolutely love doing that.
Yeah, that's very rare. That's the one song on the album. Well, we did one song in the last few years where I literally just sang a vocal on to Pro Tools, because I had this melody, and I was worried about giving it to Dean. I was worried what I was going to say. You know, what am I supposed to do with that then? You know, because it was a bit ropey. Changed the key a bit, and it wasn't that consistent. And you did an amazing job. In fact, the way you did it, Dean, makes it sound like it's more complicated than it really is.
No, it was very complex. Very complex.
Takes 3 people to play it live.
Yeah, that's it. What's ironic about it is the fact that as the keyboard player, if we did play that live, I wouldn't need to do anything.
Press a button.
That's it.
There you go. Lyrically tying that back to Empires Never Last, obviously there's some subject matter shared there, but what caused you to think of that?
I really don't know. A lot of things that come out of my head and our heads, it just does. I think the Empires thing was almost like a revisiting thing, because very, fans of the band would notice it and go, oh yeah. And that's kind of about obviously empires and power and all that kind of stuff, albeit not actually in terms of a country. It was more to do with an individual, although a lot of people seem to think it was to do with the USA for some reason, but it actually wasn't. And the idea of Writers in the Dam again was about the Middle East and power, and the way that not just the Middle East nowadays, the fact that the Middle East was carved up sort of post World War One, literally in straight lines, as if to say, right, you people are going to live there, you people are going to live there, everything's going to be fine. Well, of course it isn't, because you've got so many different types of religions and peoples and all sorts. So it's a recipe for disaster, and fair enough, it's been a disaster ever since. So the irony is that was written probably the last time there was a flare up in the Middle East. And of course, I worry about this, because we said this before, haven't we, Dean? We write songs about things and stuff happens.
And they become current.
Yeah. The Middle East is back in the news again. It's not our fault.
I think Stu needs to write some more happier lyrics next time.
There you go. Talk about world peace. That's some kind of strange monkey paw thing you got going on there.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah.
But I did like it. I did like that lyrical tie back, because it's one of my favorite Galahad albums anyway, and one of my favorite tracks on that album. So it fits, and it's a nice nod, if nothing else, to your past.
Oh, definitely. And it's are you talking about
Empires?
Empires Never Last lyric.
Oh, Empire. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I was a little bit worried about Righteous, because it is a bit different for us. But actually, most people who've heard it have actually said, no, we like it, because it is a bit different. But I can understand if it takes a few listens to kind of get into.
Some of the best.
It would if we hadn't written it. If I'd heard it, and I'd think, blimey, this is a bit strange, but that's fine.
Yeah. There's only 5 songs on the proper album, and then 2 CD tracks. That so you get to The Long Goodbye, which is the big epic title track piece to close the album, and the halfway through this, you break into the lyrics from Peter Gabriel's I Don't Remember, which is a perfect tie-in. And again, that's just something that popped into your head at the moment.
Yes. Yeah, the irony was I was trying to think of a way to sort of finish that bit, take it on to the next bit, and that just came into my head. I mean, I I wasn't sure about using it because obviously it is a direct lift, and I don't mind admitting it. But I've the way I see it is it's a kind of homage, really. It's a kind of not as I put in the album, it's a tip of the hat.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, you could almost argue it's like the protagonist is thinking about a song that he grew up with in his world back in the 80s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think those lyrics, they just work so perfectly. So I thought about changing them, and I thought, well, actually, no, I'll just keep them as they are. And I think it works.
Yeah, I think they work really well, and that is something that they are working on now. Is they're tying memories to music and stories, and I think they've had some success in terms of helping people to adjust by playing certain music at certain times. But you did mention Peter Gabriel in the credits, so no harm there, obviously. And I think
Yeah,
Peter's going to be knocking down your door looking for a
yeah.
few quid from you.
Sorry, Peter. We don't make any money, honest. We don't. Not
Just
a lot.
just before you do try and claim against it, can I get your autograph, please?
Okay, yeah. But
That'll
be it.
yeah, I mean, it's meant in an affectionate way. It's not a sort of way of trying to get publicity or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like you say, it just popped into my head, and I wasn't unsure about whether to use those lyrics. I thought, well, no, because it will also probably spark memories in people who listen to it, because they'll think of it and go, oh yeah. And of course, a lot of our demographic will know that album and know that song. So so I think it all ties in with the general feel of the track.
The Long Goodbye, the thing about this song for me that makes it special, it makes it stand out on an album full of great songs, is that the long instrumental section of this is just sublime. It's amazing. The work that Lee does on the guitar is, I mean, it's as emotional as anything that's ever been played by David Gilmour or Stephen Rothery. He just fits it so well, and he gives you the mood. You get the keys playing under it. You've got the choir. I'm assuming that's choir and not like a Mellotron patch with the Oz, but it could be a Mellotron patch. And then, of course, when you sing in the Long Goodbye, that is choral background vocals.
That's their real vocals. That's us lot, basically.
Hmm.
So we just layered and layered and layered. And the funny thing is, the first time I heard it, me and Lynn sort of looked at each other. We were actually in this room, and we both sort of said the same thing. We said, this is sort of like our Comfortably Numb, only longer.
Yeah, that's an apt description. It is a I mean, it just gives me goosebumps. That section of the song gives me goosebumps. It is so well done. And I often wonder when you're layering things in, and you're putting in string sounds, and you're putting in chorus vocals, and you got the keyboards playing, you got the guitar solo. How do you know when to pull back? When is it enough? Or was there too much and you had to take some stuff out of that?
There was too much, and we did have to take some stuff out.
I just said to Carl, have a listen to this, see what you think.
And Carl's like, I've just got a list of things here that we need to talk about. That's where Carl is the sixth member, I think, where we give him the kitchen sink, and he certainly did have to sort of like, right, let's get some structure to this, because the solo originally was from start to finish, the guitar solo, all the way through. And it was like, okay, maybe a 4-minute guitar solo is a bit too long. And I think Lee was going, yeah, and Lee was going, I didn't know when to stop, so I just carried on.
Yeah, oh, God. And then the thing is, basically, we had all the vocals at the end singing the Long Goodbye, so that was the cue, basically, to bring the guitar down. So it's not the guitar. I don't think the guitar's gone. It's just taken down in volume so something else can come up. And then the big finish, the orchestration, the orchestra at the end is just fantastic. That is sublime.
Oh, it's lovely, because Lee flipped the chorus on its head. So that end section is the chorus reversed. And it's brilliant. And I didn't even notice, I didn't realize what he'd done. I just knew it sounded great. It was only when we went to rehearse this to play it live, I'm like, hold on a sec. He's flipped it around on its head. Very clever. I love it. And then, of course, Mark did all the string orchestration at the very end. I had this thing for doing the Long Goodbye choir thing, and I had some gear to be able to start to sort of demo that together. And then, of course, we all sang it. But yeah, it was lovely that everybody came together. As Stuart sort of said earlier on, all five of us basically then just wrote that together. And then Carl had to just go, oh, right, let's sort all these bits out. But yeah, it's great fun to do.
Yeah, the hardest part was the mixing on that one, I reckon.
Yeah. But isn't it? It's interesting. We had the Last Great Adventure and the Long Goodbye. All those sessions were done at the same time, and then we get to a stage when we're like, I think the track listing for especially for this album, just it was like that they all go together. That's that album. We're going to take all those songs out, and that's that album. What have we got left? And then we had the Last Great Adventure, and then we would stop on those. So when we went back to them after the Last Great Adventure, it was like brand new again, wasn't it? Although we'd recorded them all at the same time, and so you get all the excitement again of working on them. And then, of course, you can also look at them with a fresh pair of ears.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was difficult deciding on how to finish the album, because you got the Long Goodbye, which should ostensibly be the end of the album, which it is on the vinyl, obviously, because we purposely recorded it so we could have side one and side two, which we will have shortly, hopefully. And this vinyl isn't going to take 6 months. Apparently, we're going to have them in the next few weeks, which is great. So, but what we did, if you notice, we left about 10 seconds between Long Goodbye and the next track, just to give everyone a breather. So there's a bit, instead of just 1 or 2 seconds, you've literally got more time. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice it because I have the digital track.
Oh, you've got the digital version, haven't you?
So I can have as much or little time as I want in between those songs. Yeah. So it wasn't actually, I think the first 2 or 3 times I listened through to it, I didn't know that they were bonus tracks. So I was thinking, boy, this should be the last song. The Long Goodbye, and then you have 2 more songs. But
no, without a doubt. But on the CD, there's literally there's quite a long gap, and the whole idea was just to sort of at the end of you go, wow, So,
well,
the thing is, I've got some. I've been starting to. I think Stuart's responsible for this, but I've started to buy a lot of vinyl again, and I've really enjoying going back and buying albums from years ago. And I've noticed that some of the albums, the CD version and the vinyl, you can obviously see that it was vinyl. When they released a CD, they went and slotted a couple of songs in, and they weren't always at the end, and it just ruins that flow. And the vinyl to me is the Bible of that album, and whatever the other tracks are that couldn't fit on the vinyl, they should just be at the end, surely. And instead, on some of these ones, obviously we've got Darker Days and Open Water at the end, but we could have slotted them in the middle, only then to disrupt the flow of the album for when you then play and you'd only notice it when you play the vinyl. So it's a lot more complicated when you sit down and go, oh goodness me. It's very difficult.
There are decisions and considerations to be made. So
but that's right. And we had a lot of talk about Behind the Veil of a Smile and Darker Days. Which one goes that opening track? Which one goes as a bonus track? And we never got to anything like having a fight, but it was difficult for the band. I think myself and Stu wanted Behind the Veil of a Smile as the opening track, and we were met with pickets, weren't we, Stu?
Fines and everything.
Yeah. So yes, it's like just something as simple as having 7 tracks and only 5 will fit on vinyl. Oh my goodness.
Got to make some tough choices. I do like Darker Days. I think it's a great throwback Galahad song. And you mentioned Open Water when you were talking about the last album. When I had you guys on, you were talking about the writing process. You were mentioning Open Water, which of course I had no idea what that was at that time, and here it is. But again, it's a CD bonus track. a bit of a softer number. Was it just a mood thing? It just didn't fit on the proper album, and it had to be a CD track.
I'd say so.
Yeah. I think probably you're right there. Yeah. In fact, initially we did have an idea of an instrumental, didn't we, Dean, to finish the album?
We did do an instrumental, but I think along with Darker Days, we realised with Darker Days that it wasn't a positive start. It's a great intro track, but not a positive start to an album, because it's the subject matter is more negative, whereas Behind the Veil of a Smile, okay, it might not be the most positive one, but it's a lot more positive. And then the same with Open Water. I think Open Water is just one of those tracks that would just ring on. I know The Long Goodbye would be normally the finishing track, but where would you put Open Water? You couldn't put it anywhere. It needs to be that last track. Yeah. That's the way we look at it anyway.
And if you listen to the lyrics are like, it's like the last thing on the album, when you listen to it, and so it just felt kind of right. So we put it on there.
Yeah, you're right. Darker Days is more overtly dark, whereas Behind the Veil of a Smile is more subtle. There's some subtlety there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, without a doubt. It's not so in your face.
Now, for Darker Days, were the lyrics written during the pandemic? Because it definitely sounds like that is of a time of a certain mindset.
You know what? I can't remember.
They were written before the pandemic.
I think possibly, because there were a few ideas that have been hanging around a while. So I think possibly. I mean, it does tie in quite well with the pandemic, to be honest. But no, they are historical, to be honest. A few years ago. Okay. But yeah.
Well, sounds like you were going through some darker times even before the pandemic. Then.
Yeah, I probably accentuated it slightly.
Dramatic effect. That's a Galahad staple too.
Exactly. I think that as more and more albums we do, I think Stuart just gets more and more depressed.
God. So actually, instead of thinking I'm getting a bit depressed and I'm not sure what to write about, I just write about being depressed and not sure what to write about.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Hey, write what you know. Yeah. So I saw that you guys. Before I go on to that, let me just backtrack a bit and say that it's great to follow Stuart on Facebook, because he's always posting pictures of the records he's listening to, and that makes me want to go listen to them also.
Oh, okay. Oh, cheers. Yeah. I haven't done that for a while actually, but yeah, it's nice to get a record out, put it on the record player. It's nice to see who responds, really, and it's just quite interesting. But and also to put some strange stuff up there. And in fact, I bought a Left Field album on vinyl the other day, and I love that Left Field album, Leftism. That's got Open Up on it with Johnny Lydon, and I got that in my local record shop the other day. So I might put up that next and see what reaction it gets.
Yeah,
something a bit different. We'll see.
It is surprising to some of the stuff that is posted. People are like, wait, the guy from Galahad's listening to that.
I think people have this idea that if you're in a prog band, that's your world, but it's not with us.
You're just listening to Close to the Edge over and over.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, Michael, I don't really listen to a lot of that stuff anymore because I don't need to. It's in my head. It's ingrained. I mean, these days, I'm always looking to find new music and new bands and new ideas. And, I love it. Honestly, don't get me wrong. I love all that past. And that's where we come from. That's our genesis, to use a silly word. But I mean, how many times do I have to listen to Selling England by the Pound? I've lost count. I still love it, and I love the Yes albums, and I went through a mega Barclay James Harvest phase when I was about 17 or 18. I didn't listen to anyone else. Everyone thought I was a bit crazy because no one knew who they were. And I remember trying to play a Barclay James Harvest album in our school common room on the record player. We had a record player, and in those days you were either into your heavy metal, so it was the new wave of heavy metal, so it was like Iron Maiden or Saxon or Def Leppard, or you were a new romantic into Duran Duran or the Human League or And there I am with Barclay James Harvest, and both sides are going, "What the hell's that? Why are you playing that?"
Put Duran Duran on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The one thing that those groups could agree on is that they thought that was rubbish.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
But I think the older you get, I mean, I think you just do listen, you soak up more music, and you appreciate things that maybe you didn't when you were a teenager. And I was talking to a guy the other night, and again, he was a bit like Dean. He was very into electronic music in the early 80s, Depeche Mode, orchestral maneuvers, Duran Duran, Heaven 17. And I was very into my heavy rock and prog rock, and at that point, never the twain should meet. But now it's like, well, actually, I quite like a lot of that as well, And the other thing was, when I was younger, I was into folk music a lot as well, which people thought of my age thought was a bit odd, so 17 or 18. I actually went to see Steel Eye Span at Bournemouth Winter Gardens on my own, because no bugger would come with me, basically. And I think I was the youngest in the theatre, and that was in 1982.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because when I was in high school, we had MTV come in, and so it was all of these 80s bands from all over the world, and my eyes were open to all this stuff that I wasn't hearing on the radio, and I didn't want to hear my friends' Doors and Led Zeppelin albums. I didn't have any time for Bruce Springsteen. But later on in life, I went back and went, hey, this stuff's pretty good. I just wasn't interested at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Same for me. Yeah.
So I saw that you guys were going to play Summer's End. Did that take place?
Yes. Yeah, that was last weekend, wasn't it? Not this weekend, just gone, the one before. So just over a week ago.
Yeah. That was great. It was our first show in 4.5 years. So yeah. And it was.
And we finished with The Long Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had grown men with tears in their eyes, apparently. So it worked.
I could see why. I mean, that is a very emotional song, and the, like I said, that entire final instrumental section leading up to just the single word goodbye. It's very moving. It is something to be proud of, for sure. How many songs from the new album did you play, and how did how, other than Long Goodbye, which you just indicated, how did they go down with the audience?
That was the only song from the new album.
Okay.
But we did play Alive, and we did play The Last Great Adventurer. But we only had about 70 minutes, so we had to play some older songs as well.
Yeah, so it's like four songs for Galahad, right?
Yeah. You're not far off. I think it was 6 plus encore, I think, but they were all quite long ones. But no, it was great. Hello.
Oh, there he is.
I thought I just heard Sammy then as well. I don't know where he's gone.
Special guest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You see your backside.
Scully, what are you up to?
So how many, you've got some more live shows coming up though, huh?
Well, we have now. We've got one in Southampton in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, the 1865. So that'll be good fun. That's our first local show in probably about 4 or 5 years. 5 years, I'd say. In fact, it's our first UK show since, I think, December 2018. So it's quite a long time, getting on for 5 years. And we're playing in Europe in February at the Spirit of 66 in Belgium and the Borderreich in Holland. And we've got some other gigs hopefully lined up later in the year, maybe a few shows in Poland. So it's nice because it's all sort of kicking off again, because we've had all this whole period of inactivity. I mean, we haven't been inactive. We've been, as you know, we've been writing a lot and releasing records, but it's just nice to go out and do what we were in a band for in the first place, to go and play.
With
do
the
shows.
2 new album, or a new album this year, an album about a year ago or so, whenever that came out. It seems like it was just a few weeks ago that we talked. Knowing that you haven't been playing live, is there in the works any idea of a live album to release some of the new stuff live, or a live DVD where you can capture yourselves playing this new material?
To be honest, I haven't even thought about it at the moment. I mean, our main focus at the moment is getting the new album out, pushing that, and trying to organise some shows. I mean, it would be good to record some shows maybe and release them, but that's obviously something else that needs organising, and there's a certain amount of expense involved and what have you. So, but
and to be honest, I think we were a little bit unsure whether we'd even be playing in Europe again because of leaving Europe because of Brexit. We didn't quite know where we were standing with this, and it was nice to get some communication about potential Polish gigs, but nothing confirmed. And then we got back from doing the gig in Wales, and we got some offers for Belgium and Holland, and that just came out of the blue, didn't it? So it's fantastic. So, I mean, I actually at one point thought that's it for us. We probably won't be able to play in Europe again. And luckily, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, the irony was myself. I mentioned it to Spencer the day, our drummer, and Spencer said, "Oh, we were only talking about the Border Ice the other day, saying what a great venue it was. He'd love to play there again." And blow me, you know, a couple of days after we'd done Summer's End, I had the guys who managed the venue getting in touch and saying, "Would we like to do a show in February?" So, okay, so so there you go.
Really
one day
happy.
we'll get back to the States, maybe. Who knows?
It sounds like you're building us some momentum with these last two releases. I think people are starting to notice you guys again, and that can only be a positive thing. Now, you mentioned Brexit. How difficult for British bands is it to go to Europe? It can't be as hard as it is to tour the US.
Not far off.
Really?
Not far off now, because I believe that there are some there are some circumstances if you're just popping over briefly, and then coming back again. So I think we've got, but doing a tour, it would be as difficult as playing in, say, the States, Canada. It wouldn't be any different. We'd have to import gear into the country. We'd have to go through all of that, which, you know, in the past we used to just literally jump in a van and pop across the English Channel.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's changed a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the way it works now, from what I understand, is if you're going to Europe for a couple of shows and you're in a van and the gear's with you, if you can prove that it's portable and you're carrying it with you, that's fine. You've got no problem at all. If you're going to Europe as part of a tour and your instruments are in another vehicle or a big truck or whatever, or being transited separately, it's a whole new level of admin. And basically you have to fill in a carnet with a list of all your gear, serial numbers, values. Otherwise they might not let you in, and you know, because you need to prove that it's your instruments and all this sort of stuff. It's a bit of a nightmare, and they cost money. You know, I think they cost, you know, several hundred pounds each, you know, getting on for £1,000. And in some countries they're insisting on work visas as well. So and visas cost a lot of money.
Yeah, that's kind of where they get you in the US, right? You have to apply months and months and months in advance, and it's very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, when we played Rossfest years ago, it was actually relatively easy. So they've obviously tightened up on a lot. And the last time we went over to North America, we had to have an ESTA, is that right? An ESTA or whatever it was, and that cost money. And that was when we played that, but that was in Canada, actually. That was in Quebec. But going to the USA now, I'm not even sure.
No. Sorry, you just made me remember about one of the times when we played in Canada. We were basically going in, we were invited over there, so they hired gear. We only took a little bit of gear with us. It was all going to be done very much as a holiday and do a gig while we're there. So very much pleasure rather than business. And when we get questioned in the customs side of it, it's all very much like, oh no, we're not doing this professionally. We're just going over there to do have a bit of fun, and we're gonna play a show, and that's all it's gonna be. And at the end of it, they were like, okay. And then as I then got my passport back, he went, have a good gig. So never fooled him for one moment, but he realised we weren't going over there to do a full tour.
Yeah, yeah, it's not the first time he's dealt with musicians.
That's right.
And we were sort of trying to play it down, and then some other person came up and said, "Oh look, there's Galahad. Can you sign my CD?" I thought, "Oh God, here we go."
Yeah.
Shush, keep it quiet.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked to Sean Timms from he's in a couple of bands, Unitopia and Southern Empire, and he was basically saying the same thing. They popped over to do Prague Stock. It was like, oh, we're just going to the festival.
Yeah,
that's it.
Which is
I just bought a keyboard with me because I thought I might be able to have a jam with someone.
Yeah, I want to get it autographed.
Yeah. So I think they're good, and I'm hoping that going over to Europe's going to be the same. But I do think there's a little bit of bad feeling from some European countries that we, separated from them, and we all wanted to, supposedly. So I think there are some. I think potentially there might be some people that might make it hard work for us.
Yeah, that's the thing about democracies, is that they feel like, well, you elected them, so you must have wanted this, but you don't always get your say, and especially if you're in the minority group.
That's right. Yeah.
No, definitely. So it's going to be an interesting test, I suppose, to see how we get on going over there. But I think we should be okay, hopefully. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Well, best of luck with it. I do hope you get to do a DVD, because I haven't seen you guys since Rozfest, and I would love to see how some of these songs come out live. I know there's a place in Poland, in Katowice, where there's the Łupański Theater. A lot of stuff gets recorded there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we did one there. I don't know if you've seen it. We did one at the Łupański there. Yeah, many years ago. In fact, it was when Lee was in the band the first time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And but since then we haven't really done a lot. I don't think. We did. What have we done film wise? Not a lot, actually. Thinking about it, but no, it would be interesting to do something. Yeah.
So when somebody listens to this album all the way through, what kind of feeling do you want them to come away with at the end of that listening experience, and how do you think it should differ from The Last Great Adventurer?
I see them as a companion to each other, to be honest. I think you should play them both back to back.
Yeah, I think they do kind of. There's definitely a crossover there. I don't know. I just hope people enjoy what we do and they get a buzz out of it. And I hope that, I think something like the Long Goodbye, for example. I think people of a certain age, especially us as we're getting older now, and the problems you have with parents and loved ones getting older, I think it should hopefully strike a chord, and it seems to be striking a chord. And the rest of the album's kind of quite different in a way, but kind of the artwork obviously is a representation of the actual track, The Long Goodbye. And I think Paul did a really good job. And I just hope people like what we've done and try and understand what we've done and feel something from it. That's what music's all about, isn't it? To make you feel something, hopefully.
Yeah, I look at these as very complimentary albums. Again, if it helps you to think of them this way, a light and a dark. You've got you even have a more colorful palette with the Last Great Adventure, where this one, you a little more serious subject matter. You got a black and white booklet for The Long Goodbye. So I think it works well together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like the last track on The Last Great Adventure is a very positive track. At the end of the day, although it's retrospective, it's looking at memories, but it's looking at memories in a positive way. Whereas, ironically, The Long Goodbye maybe isn't so much, but at the end of it, it's a case of, well, there is still a certain amount of looking back and the good times, and the fact that the protagonist still has the love of his family and his close ones, in spite of what is going on in his his very small world, as it were. And the irony is that protagonist could be the same person. That could be my dad.
Very deep, Stuart.
Yeah.
I like it. I like
We've
thinking
all
of it
got
that
personal
way.
stories, so it could be anyone's dad or mother or brother or whatever, sister. So yeah.
All right. Is the best place to get this album galahadonline.com?
That's the best place in terms of what we get. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
um,
I would like when people purchase this to do it in a way that helps you the most rather than adding more money to Jeff Bezos by ordering it on Amazon or something.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, we prefer people to buy it from our official website. We've also got a Bandcamp site, but even that's looking a bit dodgy because they've just been taken over. So it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts in its current format. It seems that anything that helps bands and helps musicians, somehow someone up there or some corporate wise guy decides he's going to try and obliterate it, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah. Now, would they be the righteous or the damned?
Oh, the damn with that. Yeah.
Obviously. You know what, I love what you're doing with this vinyl because you have some really amazing splatter vinyl options for these albums. I know we haven't seen the ones yet for The Long Goodbye, but of course the Last Great Adventure, those are fantastic looking records.
Yeah, we're really pleased with those. The red, white, and black splatter, that's probably the best selling album. In fact, the standard black vinyl, they're struggling to sell those.
Yeah, you have to sell out of the splattered ones first.
Yeah, exactly. And they seem to go down well. Yeah, I'm really proud of what we've done with it. It's just a really lovely tactile thing to have. And I'm looking forward to obviously the Long Goodbye vinyls as well. So hopefully we'll get them soon.
I think they're brilliant. For me, with any of the vinyls, whether they be our own ones or the ones that I've been purchasing, it's just, I don't know, because I'm playing it on vinyl, I take more notice. So I literally do put the record on and sit and listen to it, rather than asking Alexa to play something on just like play a playlist or, sometimes I'll even put a CD on and go and do the washing up. It's quite nice just to. I'm not sure. Oh, that was that was the echo.
You triggered her.
Alexa's. Oh dear.
So yeah, I think that there's something a bit, to me, it's a bit more an event and a bit more of a purpose. Plus, you've got a lovely 12-inch cover, and I love it. It's so worth having your music on vinyl. Absolutely so worth it. And I didn't get it. I think, Stuart, you've never stopped. You've always been a vinyl.
I've only sold one album ever, and I've still got all my albums when I was a teenager. Everything. It was a Van de Graaff Generator album. The least we could do was wave to each other, and I just couldn't get on with Peter Hamill's vocal on that album at all. So I sold it.
So
it's the only one I ever sold.
Well, I've been rebuying the albums that I did have, which have somehow got lost or whatever over the years. I've been rebuying them again, and then I just recently got So by Peter Gabriel, and then realised that, hold on, no, I never bought that on vinyl originally. so I've now got it on vinyl.
Well, the important thing is you have it now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've been doing the same. I mean, like I said, I told you the first album I ever bought on vinyl was Sheer Heart Attack. Well, my niece Ruby, she went through a very big Queen phase. I think she still likes them. So I gave her my original Sheer Heart Attack album that I bought in 1974, and I bought a new one. So I've got a new sort of 180 gram version, which sounds amazing. So at least I've kept it in the family.
There you go.
But yeah. I've been doing a similar sort of thing, buying a lot of the new LPs, and of course they get you some of the Led Zeppelin reissues. They're like Houses of the Holy, whatever. They've got other versions on other records, so you kind of get drawn to it, so you buy that as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Speaking of keeping things, I noticed. I love your wall there with the CDs all framed and nice. I was wondering if you, both of you, can answer this. Do you keep one of everything you've recorded? Do you keep like one of every item?
More.
Okay. and I don't mean that in a we got stuck with this because we couldn't sell them kind of thing.
No, I've got one, at least one CD of every album, even the ones I wasn't on, and the vinyls we've all got like one each. So we've got a coloured vinyl, maybe a picture disc, maybe, of all. So, for instance, I've got 3 different vinyl versions of the Last Great Adventure.
And the
so
irony is,
it's
only me and Dean that have got record players.
So yeah, Lee's got one, but Lee.
Oh, has he got one now?
I think no, he hasn't got a record player. He's just
I
got.
didn't think
he's got an album.
Got the record, but not the player. No way to play
it.
Yeah.
But
I'm terrible, Michael, because I'm a bit of a hoarder. So I've got quite a big archive of pretty much everything we've ever done. Even demo tapes, even live recordings from. I found one from the Regent Centre in Christchurch where we kind of formed from 1985. And that sounds very different to what we sound like today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you also how far do you go with it? Do you collect clippings and adverts for your gigs and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, everything. Yeah. Anything related to the band. If it's got the band name on it, I'll keep it basically. So I used to have a lot of scrapbooks and all that sort of stuff. Well, I've still got them actually. In fact, there's probably some over there. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. I always wonder about that because especially bands that have been around a while. I mean, that you're talking about serious space concerns to keep all that stuff, storage concerns. But I always wonder about that because I think I would want at least one of everything that I'd done. And some people are like, yeah, I have it somewhere. I don't know where.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've even in the loft, I've even got every single fan letter that anyone's ever sent us.
Wow.
So even in the old, because in 1989, when we started the sort of record label Avalon, whatever, we opened a PO box around the corner from where I live, which is still only around the corner actually. And of course, people used to send letters to the PO box in the old days, and we used to sort of reply to them manually, and they'd send a tenner, and we'd send them a CD. And it was just very tactile, and it was quite amazing, really. And to think that we organised gigs and tours and mini tours abroad and stuff before the internet. You think, how the hell did we do that? But we did. We wrote to everybody and said we'd be meeting on a certain day at a certain time and going off to somewhere, and everyone turned up. Quite amazing, really. And I've got all those letters, everything. So, in fact, I'll show you something.
I can feel a book coming on here.
That's right.
Yeah.
These are all 801 button badges for our fan club from the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, wow.
I got hundreds of them.
Was never our bestseller.
Wow.
That's a box containing about 300 button badges.
Well, you should put that on the website. Get some more sales going.
Actually, I do take them to gigs, and I don't charge. Actually, I don't. We just give them away these days.
Amazing.
Car stickers, loads of car stickers. So,
well, it sounds like you're a good resource, Stu. Then if I ever write a Galahad book, I'm gonna definitely have to come and visit you and look through your stuff for sure.
There's plenty of it.
Yeah, I got to get over there anyway. I got to see the Omega lights. So.
Oh yes.
Well, if ever you do come over, obviously you're welcome to come and say hello.
Oh, I've been dying to get over there for a long time. It's extremely expensive to travel from the United States anywhere outside the United States. But
wow,
yeah, that'd be great. I definitely need to get home to the motherland. My mother was born in England, just outside Newcastle. So.
Oh right,
brilliant.
That's it. Most of my dad's family are all from up Durham way. So which isn't far from Tyne, Tyne and Wear, Newcastle, etc. But yeah, they're all from up there. Awesome. So there you go, not far.
Stuart Nicholson, Dean Baker from Galahad. This has been a lot of fun to learn a little bit about The Long Goodbye. I hope it does really well for you. It's a great listen. Anybody likes The Last Great Adventure, almost by default, you have to love this album as well, because it's again a very much a companion album. I wish you nothing but the most success with this, and thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.